to another episode of the Executive Exclusive. I am your County Executive, Julie Giordano, and we are super excited today because not only do I have my Director of Administration here with me, we also have our Finance Director, Pam Oland, here. So first and foremost, we get to hear from Bunky. And Bunk, I want to celebrate with you for a couple things. Number one, this is our 10th episode.
Yeah.
I feel like there are seasons that only make it 10 episodes, and we're still going. So
right.
we, there's shows that only make it 10 episodes, so we're doing pretty good here.
That's right.
Yeah, so I'm excited. Bunky and I had a very busy week this week. Not only did we have a council meeting, but we were in Annapolis at the beginning of the week, and we will end the week in Annapolis too. And we were testifying on Bill 1340 and 1341 in the House. So can you talk to our audience members about how important House Bill 1340 is?
So to give a little background, our county is one of two, along with Montgomery County, that has a liquor monopoly where we have a dispensary system. So restaurants, bars, clubs are compelled by law to buy their liquor from our dispensary. However, those entities would like the market to be opened up so they could buy from them or a licensed wholesaler. So that's what the bill does. It allows that opportunity, that choice that they can make. Mm-hmm. So we feel that's super important, and it'll be a benefit to our county and to people who are looking to open a restaurant, bar, or a club in our county.
Yeah, and I'm really hoping that no citizens are even surprised by this. This was something that I campaigned on. We are very much about the free market, and we definitely feel that it's inappropriate for us to have a monopoly on liquor specifically. But the best thing about this bill, in all honesty, is the unanimous support with it. So not only do you have the executive support, you also have the county council behind it, and we have the Eastern Shore delegation completely behind it. So we're really excited about it. And like I said, we've already testified in the House, and then later on in this week we will testify in the Senate. So fingers crossed that everything goes smooth. We know that there'll be a couple of amendments here or there. We are allowing the dispensary to sell beer and wine, and so that will kind of help. I know there have been a lot of people that were worried about the revenue lost to the county, but we really think that them being able to sell beer will sort of offset that. So we're excited about that. So anything else you want to add? Oh, and then the Distillery Bill. So 1341 will allow a distillery not to necessarily open, because they can open now in Wacomico County, but they can't sell their alcohol because they would have to sell it to the dispensary and then buy it back 15% higher. So potentially up to 15% higher. So we are hoping that the Distillery Bill will now open it up for on and off-site consumption. They can sell their products there, and so it just promotes a more business-friendly atmosphere. So I don't know if you want to add anything else to it.
No, and that puts us on par with surrounding counties. So
Absolutely.
Who do not have a dispensary, because again, the only other county with a dispensary system is Montgomery. So we're just trying to be on par with Worcester, Somerset, Dorchester, and the other counties. So.
Okay, good. Yeah, so 1340, 1341. The House or the Senate bill's numbered a little bit differently. I don't remember what those numbers are, but we will be there at the end of this week. So we're excited about that. And then moving on to the council meeting. So we had a little bit of exciting council meeting. We haven't had fireworks in a while, so we figured we'd bring the fireworks back. Why not? One thing that we did talk about, though, which I thought was really great, was Resolution 18-2024. And this is allowing the, I want to get their name right, the Westside Neighborhood Alliance to come in and do a license agreement with us at the Westside Community Center. And do you want to talk a little bit about this, on why this is beneficial, especially for the Westside?
Well, yeah, and I'll start with a bit of a confession. I'm from Delmar. I'm from Wacomico County. My family's been here for hundreds of years. I was not aware that we had a Westside Community Center until I took this job, and it's a great building, sort of behind the firehouse by about a half mile down Texas Road, and it's a great community asset that we're trying to get more utilization for, because it is an asset for the whole county, but specifically out there in a very rural part of the county with Bivalve, Nanacoke, that area. So this would allow this group to come in and program and operate it and bring in more activity to that building, which is great.
Yeah, absolutely. It is a little far out, and I will admit, I don't mind the travel down Nanacoke Road, but it will be nice to have an organization and a group of people that are actually within that community running that building for us, which I think is great. I think that'll help alleviate some personnel stuff, with our Rec and Parks Department, and it's just so great because those people really have such a love for that community. And so we're really excited about that. So that passed. That was great. And then we got to Resolution 2024. And I want to talk a little bit about this. So at the beginning of each calendar year, me as the county executive, I present holidays to the county council. And I know we've probably heard some bits and pieces about this, and we talked a little bit about this on the last show. But we wanted to add 2 holidays, and I wanted to add July 5th, and this is not for every year. It is just this year, just for 2024. July 5th happens to fall on a Friday, so July 4th would be the Thursday. I'd like to give my employees a long weekend, celebrate our nation's independence, go, celebrate with family, friends, see the fireworks, and have a nice long weekend to come back nice and refreshed. We would be just at the beginning of a new budget season, but we're mid-calendar year, so it's always nice to have that extra holiday. And then the next date that I wanted to give was Christmas Eve. Christmas Eve falls on it's a really weird time. It falls on a Tuesday. So yes, our employees would work on Monday, and then they would have off Tuesday, Wednesday, and then we would come back, for Thursday, Friday. And it was a little contentious. There were a lot of back and forth. People, think that this day should be yes, this day should be no, and it was back and forth. And do you want to talk a little bit about that, and then we can kind of talk about what that end result was? So.
Well, yeah, this is really this is one of the things that's important, because as a government right now, wage growth has really been growing in the private sector and across the country. People have to pay more, or entities, whether it's a government or private sector, because inflation has been crazy. So when we pay for something, we have less buying power. So employers have to make up for that by increasing wages. Well, we do an annual budget that sort of accounts for that, where in the private sector, they can just say, yes, we're going to pay this position more, that position more, and they can move a lot more swiftly. So it's important for us to pay an appropriate wage, but also have benefits and things to attract employees who maybe would be able to go to another place, whether it's a different government or a private sector, and make more money. So we make it as attractive as possible so we can retain our employees and attract new employees, because we want the best talented people we can get to work for the county, because that's what the taxpayers deserve. So this is a way to sort of say thank you to those employees, and it is done across the state. Jurisdictionally, a lot of jurisdictions do it, not just county. The city of Salisbury sometimes does this. Traditionally, how this has worked is in our county is the county executive would say in November, tell employees, hey, this year we're going to give you Christmas Eve off, or say Christmas was on a Monday, we're going to give you the day after Christmas off, so you have a 4-day weekend. So that's how it's traditionally worked. This year there was some conversation with the council where they didn't really like that model, even though that's how it's always been done. So we said, okay, well, we will bring you the additional couple of days that we think makes sense. So that's what this was about, was bringing them those 2 days.
Right. And so how it ended up was we actually ended up tabling it. So we are going to be presenting, Wacomico County unfortunately only gives their employees 2 personal days a year, whereas the state gives 6, surrounding counties give 6. So we're looking at different ways to be competitive, and it doesn't necessarily always mean higher salaries, even though that is something I know that our employees would want. So we are looking across the board at different ways that we can be more employee friendly. And so we'll see. We'll kind of see what happens. So as of right now, it's tabled at this point. I'll be honest with you, July 5th, I'm okay to give up. I have a very difficult time having my employees work Christmas Eve. I just don't feel right about it. As long as I'm county executive, I'm going to fight for that. Christmas Eve at my house was it was almost bigger than Christmas at times. Our families are all together. I am not going to be in the office Christmas Eve. And so I don't feel our employees should have to use their time for Christmas Eve. July 5th, maybe I'd be willing to give that up. That was just more of a little incentive. But Christmas Eve, I'm going to kind of hold firm on that. I just do not think that our employees should be working. And I know that there are other people working that day, but I just don't think that government business should be working on Christmas Day or Christmas Eve.
Well, and so that's sort of a qualitative argument is what I made. But quantitatively, if we give the day off, then we can turn off the lights and shut down the government office building and our facilities, which saves the taxpayer money, versus if I don't know what percentage of our staff would take off, 60%, 70% on New Year's Eve. Keep in mind, schools are out, so it's a day when you can be home, probably with your spouse, but definitely your children.
New Year's Eve, we haven't given that one off, but Christmas Eve, though. But yeah.
Yeah. So,
maybe I'll give off New Year's Eve, too.
Yeah.
Just kidding. Go ahead.
So it makes also financial sense.
Yeah.
Because if we are able to shut the buildings down, we are able to save the taxpayer money in that sort of expense.
Yeah, yeah. And I always want to thank the taxpayers for that, too, because we understand that they are a part of this, too. And so we don't want you ever to think that we are, abusing any sort of money or anything like that, but we are trying to be an employee-friendly environment. And this is just one way that we can do it, where we are in competition with the private sector, who has a lot more leeway than what we can do. So we'll see. Continued conversation, and we'll keep you up to date on that. We had a lot of open work sessions. We did a lot of letters of support. So there was a letter of support for the tax exemptions on airport parts or aircraft parts, which is really important. Dave Ryan was up there pleading the case. We also did a letter of support for Senator Carrozza with the vehicle laws with the panhandling going on in Salisbury. And then two that I think are really important to both of us and very much, I think, this affects us too, but these two I think really, they affect me, which is the firefighter and EMS recruitment and retention bill, the scholarship and loan replacement assistance. I was really excited about that. I had a gentleman reach out, and has already asked about that. So we obviously did a letter of support for that. And then, of course, the income tax subtraction modification for the death benefit of law enforcement officers and firefighters. And I just think these are just good bills. They're good bills, and they're bipartisan at the state level. And so I really think that they're a positive contribution, to the whole state.
Well, yeah, and with the firefighter and EMS bill, that's a MACO, which Maryland Association of County Initiatives, which takes into account the views not only of a county like ours, which is rural, but also urban counties, or whether you politically red counties, blue counties, all these counties are interested in this. It truly is a bipartisan effort, and it makes sense. So there's a property tax credit that the county council passed, and you signed that I go in. But some of our firefighters, I don't know the percentage, but they don't own a house. So this is a way to sort of help them as well. So it's great and I hope that every firefighter chooses to live in Wicomico County. It'd be great to have more first responders live here. But if they happen to live in a different county or they happen to not own a home, this is something they could take advantage of that could really help them.
Yeah, absolutely. And then just jumping down, of course, to that death benefit, we unfortunately, lost an officer in 2022, Glenn Hilliard, and we are happy to see this happen because, we as the county were able to give a death benefit. And unfortunately, it did have to be tax based on, IRS law. So this is something I think that the state realizes, okay, when somebody's losing their life in the line of duty, this is the least we could do. And we're hoping that the federal level would sort of mirror that. And I know that there's some things in the works right now. So we're really excited, and we were happy to, support that bill as well. And then moving on to the last open work session that we're going to talk about, which is going to lead us into our special guest, our Director of Finance, Pam Oland, was the proposed fiscal year capital projects budget amendment. So I want to talk to everybody a little bit about this. So we in the county have a very healthy reserve, and that's all I'm going to say about it. It's a very healthy reserve. In doing some investments, we were able to generate about $7.5 million in just interest. So we have our bank account money, and then we have the interest earned on that bank account. And I wanted to take the interest earned here and apply it to projects in the county. And it was a little bit of back and forth. The council wasn't thrilled with the idea. They felt that we needed to go through the process of the CIP and then go through the budget. And in doing so, that's fine. And I understand we have a process for a reason. But in doing so, we're waiting till July 1st to get things done. And there are so many things that can happen from now until July 1st. One, a lot of these projects can get started now. And I'm not going to go through the list. We looked at quite a few things that department heads wanted. We looked at our CIP. We looked at, we thought about what citizens had asked for, what was important to the county council. So this was not an executive exclusive list. This was a list that was generated, I think, from a lot of different entities. And so it didn't seem to be well received. And then James Wynn sort of like kind of shifted the ship a little bit. So I don't know if you had any thoughts on that. I know you weren't up at the table with us, but in the discussion. Or were
Yeah.
you up at the table with
No.
us? No. Okay. Yeah, I didn't think
I was
so.
happily, I was
happily not
at
there.
the table.
Yeah.
I was cheering you on
Yeah.
from the cheap seats.
Yes.
No, but what was great about it is, so our Civic Center has needed a new roof for about a decade, and so we have patch, all of this. And unfortunately, the estimate we have to replace that roof is about $4 million. However, the interest more than covers that, the interest revenue we received. So the council, it seems like, agreed, and we'll see next council meeting when it's on the agenda if they follow through and ultimately agree with it, that we could just replace the roof. Because if we did not replace the roof pretty soon, immediately, we're going to have to pay $165,000 for a patch. So if we have to pay $165,000 for a patch, in February, but then start the replacement of the roof, and we probably would get a new roof sometime late this year, early in 25, then what did that $165,000 get us? And I think that was part of the conversation too, where they saw the wisdom in sort of moving that up, since it is a maintenance issue. Another issue is Athol Road, and my dad grew up just outside of, just off of Athol Road, so I know the area really well. But there have been first responders, specifically the fire department, that have really complained about the condition of the road, and they have to drive a certain speed because of it. And so our department, our roads department, has been sort of doing it piecemeal, because they only get so much money a year, so they can do a little section, a little section, a little section. And this, it's about $1 million that we would allocate in this, would give us a major section. And I believe Lee Alton said that by the end, if this goes forward, by the end of this, we'll have from 50 to Cherry Walk Road done, either through the sections he has piecemealed, in addition to what this will give us. So that is a major accomplishment for the roads department. And unfortunately, sort of a backstory on this, the state cut highway user revenues. The county used to get about $7 million. I believe last year we got $1.5 million. And that cut was done in 2009. So we still get very little money compared to what we used to in road money. And it affects our roads department being able to do major projects like this. So this is a welcome relief to roads and to the people in the Mardella area, or if you drive in the Mardella area, this will be really welcome.
Yeah. So I had kind of given a list. Oh, gosh, I couldn't even guess, maybe 12 things, something like that. And they varied from the airport to schools to the roads to rec and parks to the civic center, So it was a lot of different things. And then the council sort of narrowed that down. So we did do, it looks like they're going to move forward with the civic center roof, as Bunky said. We are also going to be paving Athol Road. We're also going to be doing some marina facelifts. So some things that have been, boards that need to be replaced and things like that down in District 2 at our marinas. And we also are going to be fixing the AC in the Westside Community Center, which we just talked about. So we don't want to have the Neighborhood Alliance take over, the Westside Neighborhood Alliance, and then all of a sudden we don't have AC working. So they were willing to do that. So while all of the projects aren't going to be fast-tracked the way that we wanted, there are some things that are able to get done. So I am happy about that. I think I just had some frustration because I am, I think I misinterpret, or we have a different definition of what taxpayer dollars are supposed to be for. I don't feel, I think having a reserve is super important. I understand that. I understand financially we need to have a reserve, but I do think that some of that money needs to go back into the community. And and as I said in the council meeting, I'm not asking for a brand new GOB. I'm not asking for a statue of me out front. I'm asking to pave roads and fix schools and, put that money right back into the community. And so I was happy to see that they were moving in that direction. And hopefully those capital projects that were on that list and just didn't get chosen this time to be fast-tracked, hopefully after July 1st they will be. I just have a hard time because things are going to be more expensive. Things are climbing every single day. I feel like every time I go to the grocery store I'm paying more money for things. So, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. So I haven't quite given up yet on those things. So we'll see, what happens with that.
Well, and there are a couple parks projects, and there are other projects, but just as an example of a couple things that we had on the list that it looks like we're going to have to do at budget time. So maybe we can get the money through budget and start them in July 1st. Was lights at Billie Jean Jackson Park, which we've been asked about from people from the community, and it makes sense to do, as well as Atkins Mill Park, which is over in Powellville. Right now, we believe we're going to get $70,000 in program open space. We're going to add an additional $50,000 onto that through this, and then have a really nice park over there in Powellville. So those are sort of things we were also looking at doing, but if we can't get them this way, we'll definitely try to do it during the budget.
Yeah, yeah. And speaking of budget, I think this is where I'm going to say goodbye to Bunky, and he's going to leave me, and we are going to bring our Director of Finance in, Pam Oland. Bye, Bunk. Thank you so much for being here with me. It's always a pleasure to have you.
Yep, looking forward to 10 more.
All right, and now joining me in this studio is our amazing Director of Finance, Pam Oland. And Pam, thank you so much for being here with me.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I'm really excited. So we have had different department heads on. We've had LMB on, and we had our Human Resources on, and Matthew McConaughey on. But you are like the brains behind it all. You are the reason the county even functions. So how long, well, first off, you've been in finance forever, right? So you've been doing that a while.
I've been in my career for almost 30 years. And I have been with Wicomico County for about 10. I've been in the finance director position for about 3.5 now. So I have been around the county in a finance role, just not as finance director until about 3.5 years ago.
Yeah, well, we're like super happy to have you, and we are getting ready to get into our crazy budget season. So, please bear with Lisa, who is in my front office. She has scheduled all of our budget meetings. So, can you just tell the citizens? I try to kind of walk them through the process of how we do things because they're not in the office when we're doing them. So, if you kind of want to explain the budget process and what we do with our department heads.
So starting in January, we actually send out to the departments a list of instructions as to what we're looking for them to provide. So they have been working since the beginning of January, entering into our budgetary software their numbers, what they would like for the next fiscal year. So our fiscal year starts July 1st, so it would be July 1st, 2024 through June 30th, 2025. So we refer to that as our fiscal 25. The departments have been meeting with HR to talk about what positions they need, what positions they need upgraded, if they need more, if they need raises, if they need other financial aspects to help make it more attractive to have those employees work for their department. They have through the end of February to get all that information in, and starting at the beginning of March, we start administration, finance, and HR will meet with every department to talk about their funding requests. Their requests are what that sounds like. It is a request. We then have to, between finance and administration and HR, make the decisions as to how much funds do we actually have in the county and what are the priorities for funding the next fiscal year. We are required by law to have a public hearing. It's March 11th at the Civic Center in the Da Nang room, I believe. A press release will be going out at the beginning of March for that. And that is the time. We do not show the budget at that point in time. We're asking the citizens to come out and say, what are the priorities for fiscal 25 that you have for our funds? So that we can take that into consideration along with the department request.
Yeah, and it's not to cut you off, but I think there are some citizens that were a little confused about that. So I want everybody to know, so we do a CIP meeting for the public, and then we also do a budget meeting for the public. But that is not the time for us to share the budget with the public. You have an opportunity to come forward and say, hey, we want these in the CIP. Those are the projects that we want to do, those long-term projects. But also you have a say in our budget. What is important? If you think that the employees should have raises, you should come and say that at the budget meeting. Or if you feel that more money should go into this department, you need to come say it at the budget meeting. So that is an opportunity for the public to come forward and give their opinion. So I don't want to cut you off, but I think sometimes there is that confusion.
So that is in March, and then we are required by the charter, the administration must submit to the county council by the third Tuesday in April a proposed operating and capital budget. At that time, it then becomes the council's responsibility to take a look at that budget and analyze it. They will meet with different departments. They will hold a public hearing in a council meeting about the budget. And they will also then start deliberations as to what changes they need. I try very hard to work with the council so that if they are proposing changes, our charter allows them to cut from the budget. It does not allow them to add, but historically we have been able to work between administration and council if we want to add If the executive is willing to agree to an add during that process, then it can happen. Otherwise, the council can only cut.
Right. And we did that last year.
Yes, we did that last year.
Yeah, so they cut some things last year, and then we were able to take that funding and then apply it to raises for our employees.
Correct. So last year, the executive agreed to increase the raises to the employees, which the council could not do on their own. They had to do it with the approval of the executive. They could have cut the money and had it available, but if you hadn't agreed to that, ultimately that money would just go back and sit in fund balance.
Right.
So again, that happens through the end of April through the month of May. Typically, I believe the charter says June 1st, the council has to adopt a budget, but they can, by resolution, make a change to that date, but no later than June 15th. So typically, they adopt the budget on the first meeting in June. Every once in a while, they have called a special meeting to beat the June 15th deadline because they need extra time. If they do not adopt a budget by June 15th, the proposed budget by the executive becomes the budget with no changes. I have never experienced that. They have always passed a budget by June 15th. So they have always worked out whatever differences they had amongst themselves or amongst with the executive and had a budget passed by June 15th. So that is kind of the timeline. So from April approximately 15th is when the second or the third Tuesday of the month is. From that date till June 15th, it is the council's budget to make the determination as to what is going to be the operating budget. When it gets adopted, it then gets implemented on July 1st.
Right. So yeah, so June 15th is even kind of pushing it. I know they have till June 15th, but then it gives us about 15 days to make sure everything is in order, and then we're ready to go July 1st.
Correct.
So anyway, what do you think, and I know we don't have a ton of time here, but I do want to talk to you. So what do you think is going to be the biggest thing that department heads are going to come with, do you think?
The biggest thing is either additional salaries, and I think that's the biggest one.
Yeah.
Is additional salaries, and there is also requests for more employees. Mm-hmm. There are certain departments that operate on a very lean number of employees, and some of that goes back to the recession time, that positions have never been replaced, and some of that goes to we are growing as a county. And so that requires additional staff to meet those requirements. So I believe those are going to be the two biggest things. Additionally, at the last council meeting, we talked about a product with a company called Marathon. We're looking at including that in the budget, which would be an employee benefit. And basically, we would be joining with the Board of Education to open a health center that would only be Board of Education and Wacomico County employees and their dependents to attend. And so it would make, the employees would not pay any cost for it, they wouldn't have co-pays for it, and it would be an added benefit to them to help make our employees a healthier population.
Yeah, absolutely. And without having the co-pays, and they get their generic drugs, I think, covered and things
Yes.
like that. We're talking like if you are at the doctor, it's $15 to $20 copay. Your kid's at the doctor, $15, $20 copay, plus 2 prescriptions. I mean, you're talking anywhere between $50, $60, maybe even $70, just depending. And, you know, we're able to cover that. So,
Yes.
yeah, we're excited about Marathon. The council seemed really excited about it, too.
Yeah, so
that
the
was
council, we had a work session with them and we discussed the concept, and I said basically, if you're not interested in this, we're not going to try to fit this in the budget.
Right.
But they were interested in the concept, so that is one thing from the administration side that we're going to try to fit in the budget for this next fiscal year.
Yeah. Well, I know we're almost out of time. Pam is getting ready to go on an awesome vacation, so we're really excited for her. But then after that, she is going to be crazy. So crazy busy with the budget. We have a ton of meetings. And I want everybody to know we meet with every department, and that's not just people at the GOB, because we have to meet with our roads department. We have to meet with our sheriff's office. We meet with state's attorney. We meet with courts. So we are meeting with a lot of different people. We have our CBA coming up. We've got lots of different meetings where different people are going to be pulling us in a different direction. So bear with us, you know, especially in the finance world in the next couple months, because it is going to be a busy time. So.
Yep, and we hope to present a thoughtful and well thought out budget for Wacomico County for fiscal 25.
Yeah. Well, Pam, we are so appreciative of you and the finance department and everything you all do. We don't even know half the stuff you do, and it's always call Pam. So I just appreciate everything you do. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah. So thank you to all for being here. And I know Bunky's not here, but we're going to thank him too for being here. And we really appreciate everything that you guys do. Thank you for tuning into our 10th episode. And I'm going to end with our quote of the day. Don't worry about people talking behind your back. They're behind you for a reason. Thank you all. Have a great day.